The following program is brought to you by Jack Miller.
It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life, not Wall Street, but Main Street. A real show on what's really involved with starting and running a business, with all the ups and downs. Our guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation.
I'll tell you about it. Hello, everyone. This is Jack Miller with our main man, Todd Cohen. Todd, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Jack.
You're always doing good with that big smile of yours. Did you have a nice week?
It's been great.
Hello, audience. Thank you for joining us. Todd and I both feel it's an absolute pleasure for you to take time out of your busy days and weeks to spend time with us every day, and we're excited to be with you. We have a good show today. We have a super exciting guest, a reporter at the South Florida Business Journal by the name of Brian Bandel, who's also a writer. He's just published a few fiction books. And this guy seems to know everything about South Florida real estate, so I'm excited to get him on the phone.
Very excited.
So let me ask you a question, Todd. Something dawned on me. And I was thinking about, first I have to set the preface. I know how much you love your wife because I know you.
Boy.
You've told me that you love your wife. You married up. She's the apple of the eye. And you know that I love my wife.
That's
and
right.
Only have pure thoughts and certainly don't look at other women or think of anything. So I have to highlight that, right?
Of course.
So this is a hypothetical, not about me or you, but what would you do if you go out with your wife or a friend, let's call him Michael or whatever his name is, goes out with his friend on date night, and you go out to a nice place, and right across the way from you, facing you, is a voluptuous young woman, and her top part is overflowing. It's overflowing that you just cannot help but stare. How do you?
The ample bosom is out on display. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. What do you do? Do you stare? And by the way, the guy with her is like 8'2". He's looked like The Rock. He looked like he would beat me up in 2 seconds just by looking at me.
Okay.
So how do you try not to stare? Because I don't know about you. Oh, again, this isn't about me, by the way. But the average guy, Mike, this example I'm giving, his eyes just gravitate there. I don't know what it is, but the eyes just gravitate to that part.
Living in South Florida is a challenge every day for the average guy.
So is it acceptable to look, like, first of all, do you say something, again, not you or me, but do you say something to the girl you're with? Say, oh, you got to see this girl? Or do you try to ignore it? What do you do?
Look, when you're married like we are and we know our women for as long as we do, you sort of know what the reaction would be and whether they're the kind of person you can tap on the shoulder and say, hey, you got to see this, and whether they'd appreciate that. If they're not, which, that's okay too, then you really need to sort of pick your moments, if you will. Like when your wife slips off to the bathroom, inevitably, you have some time to, drop your fork and look over in that direction, or talk to the waiter or waitress and ask for a refill of iced tea, or whatever it is that you're doing to give you that angle and an extra look or two while you can get it. Now, if you're seated correctly, you might have the whole entire meal to sort of gaze past your woman, not really giving her or tipping her off that you're even doing so,
In my case, now this didn't happen to me, but I have a very cool wife. Not only because I'm non-observant, she actually points those things out for me. She says, "Oh, look at this, look at that." So if that would have been me, I would have said to my wife, "Look at that." But she's always telling me, "Don't stare," and I catch myself staring too much.
Me too.
Yeah, I know, it's terrible.
I'm a starer.
I know. You can't help it. What is it? I guess that's the sexist. That's what keeps us going.
Because it takes our brains that long to sort of take in the situation that we're actually seeing this. It's not a dream. No one's pinching us. And so you sort of lose yourself in the moment, and you're like imagining the different scenarios. What would it take for this to happen or that to happen? How do you get rid of the meathead that's with her? You're thinking all these things, and by the time you realize that this is all going on, you're like, holy shit, I'm staring. Wow.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it is great.
I know. I love in those moments, you're right, especially in South Florida when they dress very scantily.
That's right.
I know. I think
it
it's
happens
great.
every day here.
Every day here. It's part of the beauty. It's one of the joys of going out.
That's right.
I thought that was funny. You know what else is funny? I don't know if you funny. When you go in restaurants, Do you, like my wife and I, she likes to imagine if the couple's married or if they're fighting or if they're dating, and she tells me the whole story. So half the couples we go out to, you could tell they're married. They're not talking. Sometimes you want to give them Suicide Anonymous' line because they look so miserable. Literally, we were the other day in, what's that? I forget the steak place. Whatever it was.
Prime 112?
No, we don't go to those expensive ones.
Lone Star?
No, but it's
Outback.
like Outback in Boca. And literally, there was a couple there. I'm telling you, I wanted to give them each the Suicide Anonymous line. They looked so miserable. It was great. I just had a great time staring at them and kind of.
Right.
It was funny. And I felt worse for they had like a teenage daughter with them who, poor kid growing up.
Have you ever gone out like to eat in today's day and age and see a couple, they're clearly either married or on a date or something, and both of them are completely absorbed in their phones, not looking at each other, not talking to each other, just sitting at the table doing that?
You're talking about my wife and I.
Is that you guys?
No, I actually, we're that way every night in bed. My wife's on her iPhone or whatever it is. She's listening to music. I'm downloading stuff. No, I know.
What about the people who are out with their children, small children, and doing that?
Yeah, I know. It's tough. It's tough. I also, sometimes they come out with newspapers or books, and it's a little awkward. It's a little bit awkward.
That's right. We live in an awkward age.
But you know what? After you're married, 20-something years, there's not that much to say sometimes anymore.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. We live inside those awkward pauses, right?
That's it.
The silences.
Yeah, lots been happening in the news with politics is going crazy. You think anyone really cares about immigration?
Not as much as Donald Trump would lead people to believe, I think.
My theory is almost, again, I know we're in South Florida. It's a hotbed here, but I don't really know anyone who cares.
Well, look, immigration has become a bigger thing of late because of what's going on in Europe right now and Syria. I think that really brings certain things to the forefront of the discussion because, there's a real problem going on right now in Europe and in the Middle East, and that could easily happen closer to home. And it's not like it's not happening. It's not happening at such an exponential and magnified rate as it's happening over there, but that can happen to us. And it sort of is, just at a slower scale. And you need to understand that no one doesn't want the best. I read an article today. There was a pregnant woman who was,
They're not saying it's yours or
in
mine,
Hungary.
right?
No, she was in Hungary, and she wanted them to let her in because she didn't want to lose her baby, and she's pleading with them. And that's the saddest thing I could read. And look, it's not like people don't feel for these people. We all do. These people are less fortunate than us, and they want a better place to live, just like our ancestors did when they came over here and sacrificed everything, sometimes leaving all of their wealth in other countries to sort of forge a better life for their families going forward. Everyone understands all of that, but the problem is we're not equipped to deal with everything that comes with it. Our hospitals can't just drop everything and start treating millions of people as they flood the borders and not deal with the people who are already living in those cities.
But Todd, aren't there, I don't know, whatever the number is, 11 or 14 million people here, whatever the number is, they're already living here. I don't understand, to be honest with you, why don't we just make them legal, give them all the rights that everyone has? Think about what it'll do for the economy. It'll increase taxes. These people open up bank accounts, buy homes. They're hardworking Americans. And to be honest with you, they're more hardworking than the Americans, because the Americans, no offense, are pretty lazy after the second generation.
I agree. Look, something needs to be done. And I don't know if it needs to be that drastic or something somewhere in between, but something does need to be done. And then something needs to be done on the other side of things where, the police and the fire departments and hospitals and people who are protecting the citizens in certain areas can do so and understand and account for all the people who happen to be coming into a land. And not only the people who already live in certain areas, but also the people who have come illegally into the country. They need to be provided safety and some sort of form of government protection services.
So what's more fun to talk about, the top part of a female's body or immigration?
Yeah, let's go back to the first conversation. I agree. It's unanimous.
I agree. Anyway.